Working Interferences is intended for mature audiences. Since the hosts never grew up, someone needs to be the
today, Lance.
We sure do.
We have our good friend, Dr. Mike DiTolla. Welcome, Mike.
What up, boys? I'm excited for this one. This is like nothing we've ever seen before in the podcast world, dental podcast world.
This is something I've been wanting to do for 5 years. This is something back to Accidental Geniuses. I've been wanting to do this. I've been obsessed with the movie The Dentist. And the website, theringer.com, has a podcast series called The Rewatchables, where they really go deep down and break down ostensibly good movies and really deep discussions about them. And I wanted to do a Rewatchables about The Dentist. And then I realized something, Lance and Mike.
Yeah?
I realized that this is a horrible movie. So we're not calling this a
When did you figure that out?
Yeah, about 14 seconds in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The terrible computer graphics and the opening sequences and the terrible electronic music.
Yeah.
So we're calling this an unwatchable because this movie is unwatchable, but it's unwatchable in the best possible way. Does that make sense?
No.
Well, it only makes sense in the context of a COVID-19 shutdown. God forbid you spend 90 minutes of your time when you have options. But when you're stuck around your spouse and your kids, they go into the spare bedroom. In fact, Josh, I would suggest pause if you really want to experience this and have the best experience. Pause it now. Go to the Apple iTunes Store. Go to Vudu. Seriously, invest in this movie. I think it's $5.99, or I think you said it's free.
It's free on Vudu.com. You can watch it with like a couple of advertisements in the middle. It's not bad. It's not intrusive. It's like Mike said, it's 90 minutes. It's a very small investment.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, with the advertisements too, there was one for the Koi Center. There was one for, it's really, really interesting what they've snuck in. Google really did its work. Colgate commercial, but watch it. And it's certainly unforgettable. But it is, I'll ask you, Lance, there's this concept of movies that are, or this concept of anything, any kind of art that's so bad that it's good. Do you think this is that?
I apparently, by definition, sure. I'm still not quite there. I've only done the one watch. Apparently, I'm going to be doing a couple more. So maybe I'll get there. I think, Josh, you said that the more you watched it, the more you actually.
I'm in love with this movie. I'm not there yet. So here's the deal. This movie, The Dentist, is dentistry's Top Gun, and that's it's a problem for dentists because we need better media.
Yeah.
And the idea of like a dentist to have a movie about like the emotional journey of a dentist throughout all these problems in their life, like that actually would be a good movie if done well. This is put that just like with a slasher tilt, which is just again so bad that it's good. But it's all we have, and in a time like this, you have to make do with what you have. And this is what we have. And it's one of those things that's like, I'm trying to think of a song that's so bad that it's good. Like the Macarena, right? Mike, you remember those days? I don't know what, 98, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
so terrible that like the Macarena comes out. It's like you just can't turn it off.
I think the Macarena is like this movie where you have so bad that it's good at 180 degrees, but then there's things that go beyond that where it's just so bad that it's bad, still bad, or doubly bad. So the Macarena might be that. I might say the so bad that it's good would be like Afternoon Delight.
Oh,
do you remember that skyrockets in flight? That song is so bad that it's, I don't know. But then again, I heard it like in my parents' station wagon growing up. This is the best and worst dentist movie ever made, all rolled into one for your viewing enjoyment. But you can only see it once for the first time, and I'm kind of jealous for the listeners who are about to go embark on this, because you can't. It's that first time you see it where it's just the neck snapping that goes on.
It's like heroin. It's heroin. The first is the best.
You're chasing the dragon after that. Mike texted me and he told me, "Dear God, this is going to take me 6 hours to get through because every 10 seconds I have to pause it and write down 4 paragraphs of notes." And that's, it is coming fast and hard at you as a dentist watching this movie that it is almost overwhelming. And I've watched it now 4 times in the last 2 days. And the last time I watched it, I picked up something that I had not picked up in any of the other 3 viewings. So it really is, guys, the gift that keeps on giving.
Well, please point that out when you get to the thing that. Okay, thank you. I can't wait to hear what this is.
I will. So go watch the movie. The movie is 90 minutes. What's the over under on proportionality of how long we will spend talking about this movie versus how long the movie actually is? Because I can almost guarantee you that we'll be talking about this for more than 90 minutes.
Yeah, we thought my magnum opus of songs was long.
Yeah, this is more than I have a hard out, as they would say in the business, at 6 p.m. Central. Right now it's 2:23. So we have about 3 hours. That's the max we can put in it. But I do have a hard out for a previous commitment. I do love it when they say that in the biz, Mike, that they have a hard out.
There's a couple of hard outs in this movie where you feel like can I go on? But there is so much to talk about it. But again, it really will mean more when you see it yourself as a dentist. Don't have anybody else with you. You may want to watch it with your dental assistants. That could be fun. I know they're not around right now, but I think
a couple of great scenes for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And, one thing that I didn't write down is just a lot of stereotypes in there. Like that front office woman is just like so front office-y. Yeah. And it's just one good example. But Josh, I know in your hours of work that you've done on this, you've had the chance to do some research and look at IMDb. So hit us with some facts about this movie.
So I was telling the boys before we started, I've put more work into this than I have anything since I was working on the DS World TED Talk. That's the last. And Mike, you remember the hours that went into that. This is I would say almost the same level of work as that. So. You know how they say actors do one for them and one for me, where they'll do who's the guy that plays the arrow shooting guy in the Avengers?
Jeremy Renner.
Jeremy Renner, he'll do the Avengers and then he'll do a couple arty movies, and so this right here, this podcast, this work that I put in, this is the one for me. This is the one.
All right.
For me. So starting with the IMDb, the Internet Movie Database synopsis. Dr. Feinstein has everything, a beautiful wife and a successful career in dentistry. But when he discovers his wife is in an affair, he realizes that behind every clean white surface lies the stench of decay. Having gone insane, he enacts cruel dental torture on his patients.
Well, I just want to say for the first thing that Dr. Feinstein, I love how they're Jew adjacent. They don't want to.
We can't go Feinberg. We cannot go Feinberg. It's too much.
Or Feinstein. I Googled when I paused it right there at the beginning and Googled Feinstein DDS, and there's 7, just within a 20-mile radius of where I am. So they obviously didn't want to get sued, but just pick some other random name. They still had to they wanted to have it sound Jewish, but not get sued by any Jewish dentist. So I just thought that was
the ACLU. Or
exactly. I thought that was crazy. Just the name choice in its own. And by the way, there was did you find Dr. Glennon Engelman in your research?
Yes,
okay.
I did. Yeah. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Okay, cool.
Because I didn't know anything about it. And I'm sort of a true crime kind of fan. And I did not know that there was this dentist who this was mildly based on. Very,
very mildly.
So the following is my synopsis. So if you don't want to watch the movie, here's kind of a rundown of it. This is a few paragraphs long, kind of get you through the idea of it. But really, like we said, you got to watch the movie. The movie opens with a normal morning between Dr. Alan Feinstein and his wife, Brooke, which is, quote unquote, a very waspy name that comes up later in the movie. It's their anniversary today. Now, on his way out of the house, he suspects something is amiss. He comes back to find his wife, Brooke, demonstrating the tender act of love with their pool man, Matt. And he's not a pool boy by any stretch of the imagination. He is a pool man. This obviously tortures Dr. Feinstein. He follows Matt, the pool guy, to the house across the street, where he finds Matt caring for the sensual needs of his neighbor, Paula, as well. After a run-in with Paula's dog and his .380 pistol, Alan heads to the dental office. His first patient is little boy Jody. During the exam, Dr. Feinstein starts to hallucinate and he sees decay everywhere. He stabs Jody on the palate with a scaler, causing Jody's mom to freak out and leave, carrying her son Jody out of the office like a World War II medic. Dr. Feinstein's next patient is April Rains, the beauty queen. While she's out on nitrous, he sees visions of his wife, Brooke. He begins to fondle her and then chokes her out. She wakes up and calls out for her manager, Steve, who is played by a big star, which will be fun to talk about. who carries her out of the office. They're dropping like flies, according to assistant Jessica. While cleaning the room, Jessica finds April's pantyhose on the floor. Oops! Steve comes back in the office and punches Dr. Feinstein in the face. This ruckus causes the office to close for the day. Since it was their anniversary, Brooke meets Alan at the office to go to dinner, but Alan has other plans. He shows Brooke her anniversary present, a new operatory in his office. He then incapacitates her and extracts all of her teeth with the wildest instrument setup I've ever seen. The next morning, Matt the pool guy shows up to fix the broken sludge filter. He finds Brooke asleep by the pool. As he is netting out the dirty pool, he finds something disturbing, Brooke's tongue. Alan then kills Matt the pool boy with a chef's knife and an incredible amount of blood spatter. Dr. Feinstein heads back to the office, and surprise, surprise, his first patient is his neighbor, Paula. Paula asks Alan how the new pool guy, Matt, is working for them. Alan then destroys Paula's tooth with a, quote, donut burr, causing his assistant, Jessica, to intervene. After Paula leaves the office, Jessica, the dental assistant, gets strangled by April's pantyhose that she discovered the day before. Alan puts her body in the nitrous closet, an obvious choice. Meanwhile, ballistics are back on the bullet from the dog murder. It turns out it's a 380, and guess who is a registered owner of a Walther PPK 380? Dr. Alan Feinstein. The cops now have a suspect. While Alan is choking his assistant, Jessica, the IRS agent responsible for auditing Dr. Feinstein shows up with the toothache. He bribes his way back to the operatory, where he tries to shake down Dr. Feinstein. He's got some veneers that popped off, and Alan offers to, quote, use laser bonding to reattach them in exchange for lenience on his audit. When Marv, the IRS agent, asks if Alan's wife is hot, Alan snaps and begins to torture Marv with an articulator. I'm not lying. It's really an articulator. At the Feinstein home, police detectives find Matt's body and Brooke. They now know that Dr. Feinstein is a madman. Back at the office, Karen, the hygienist, finds Marv, the IRS agent, being tortured. Alan injects an air bubble into her neck, killing his second staff member. During all of this, a teenager named Sarah has been waiting patiently to get her braces off. She goes back to find Dr. Feinstein ready to debond her. While Sarah looks at her beautiful new smile, Dr. Feinstein hallucinates the rot and decay again. He pulls a gun on Sarah, and she fights back to escape the operatory. The two play cat and mouse around the office. Dr. Feinstein finds Sarah in the La Scala operatory, where he holds a gun to her head, and she promises not to eat any candy and brush her teeth 3 times a day. For some reason, this appeases Dr. Feingold. Meanwhile, the police show up at the office only to find Sarah crying in a dental chair and Dr. Feinstein on the run. No one knows where he went. Office manager Candy offhandedly remarks that Dr. Feinstein was a great dentist and a great teacher. In true garbage movie logic, this means that he's going to the dental school to terrorize more people. And he is. At the dental school, he orders everyone's teeth to be extracted while brandishing his gun. He shoots one of the patients right before the cops bust in. Taking one of the dental school patients hostage, Alan is on the run around campus. He finds the school auditorium, where for some reason a woman is practicing opera. This acts to end his hallucination and bring him to his knees, where the police apprehend him. Feinstein gets sent to a mental institution, where the film closes with him having a restoration placed in the prison dental clinic. Wow, that was a journey.
By his wife.
Yes, it never really showed who it really was.
Oh,
but
it
was his, yeah. And one of the best effects was the best visual effects. There were a couple of actually pretty decent visual effects in this movie, and the rest were horrible. But the one where they showed at the end, when it's his wife that's the one that's doing the restoration on him, she had obviously some kind of acrylic something that went over her teeth that made it simulate being edentulous, right?
Yeah, biotemps, like pink biotemps, basically, without teeth.
And whoever made it made ovate ponics into all of those spaces, which was really, those ovate ponics were really nice.
I'm not even kidding. Glidewell makes a lot of those things for the movie industry. There's a connection with the Hollywood person because biotemps were the easiest way to do some of that stuff. So there's lots of, in fact, we have, I don't know if I ever showed you, I think it's still up there at the lab, but we have like the stone models of famous people whose mouths have come through the lab. So one of them is is Tom Cruise. We have the stone models from the alginates they sent in to have biotemps made for, what was it? Curse of the Vampire? Or what was it? The Vampire
Oh,
movie?
right. Yeah.
Interview with the Vampire.
Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah.
Right. But Brad Pitt also had an occlusal guard made. So his models are there, and female employees would take turns bringing them home for a night, I guess, and having them like talk to them. But I think HIPAA stopped all that. But no, Hollywood actually has sent a lot of cases to Glidewell, and biotemps have been used for a lot of those things.
I had no idea. That's amazing. The Rotten Tomatoes score on this movie. The critics gave this movie. Any guesses what number the critics gave this movie? How about a?
Well, I'm going to go with 87.
Just a little off, Lance.
What did Shawshank get?
Yeah, Shawshank got a 91. So
Okay.
based it off of that.
I'm going to go with lower.
Yeah. How about a big fat 0? This is the 0 on Rotten Tomatoes amongst the critics.
How
the
many
audience,
heroes out there?
there's not a ton. I mean,
Okay.
there's on audience it's 29%. So it's harder to find an audience movie with 0. There
And that was all Josh. That was all Josh just turning in review after review under different fake accounts.
Scott Weinberg from efilmcritic.com says, there's a fundamental difference between watching a person getting eaten by a horny monster from another dimension and watching a dentist drill gnaw at someone's teeth. I'm not exactly sure what the difference is, but hell, I know dentists and those guys are creepy enough already. That's an actual line from the movie review for The Dentist. IMDb score 5.3. So obviously a little easier on the deal there. This movie debuted on October 18th, 1996. So Lance, tell me where you were in 1996 when this movie came out.
96. Okay, I'm in dental school. So I'm probably second floor lab. I was a sophomore.
Okay. Possibly working on the visual effects.
Probably making gums that look just like the wife's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike, where were you in 96? You're practicing in some part of LA, right?
Yeah, I got out in 1988, so I was in Downey still. I was probably the last year in Downey in LA County before moving down to Orange County. And to answer Lance's last question, Bucky Larson, Born to be a Star, got a 0 on Rotten Tomatoes. Just for some a little point of reference, and so did Super Babies, Baby Geniuses too. So that's where this movie is. But
That's the level we're talking about.
That's what it is. What about you, Josh? 96.
96. You guys are gonna hate me. I was a junior in high school.
Okay.
So I was using dial-up internet on a 28.8 baud modem to try to see as many breasts as I possibly could.
Nice. And this was at your healthcare focused high school.
Yes, exactly. At Health Careers High School. Yeah. But I remember when this movie came out, and I did not see it when it came out, obviously at the theater, because I think it only, we'll get into how much it made at the theater in just a minute. But I saw it on HBO when it hit HBO. And there were a few things that I remember thinking when I saw it. Do you guys remember, Mike, when did you see this movie for the first time?
I saw it probably within a year or two after it came out, because I used to talk about it. I used to talk about it in my lectures. I would talk about like some of the goofs that we're going to talk about, how it was in there. And it was kind of a bigger part of a thing that I would used to do in my lecture about how bad dentistry has it, because medicine has shows like Emergency, ER, Chicago Hope, Grey's Anatomy. It goes on and on and on. And there's no dental. They have ER. There's no dental show. There's no DR. We don't have dental room. And then I would go through this fake hypothetical thing of trying to make really, really ordinary things, like a popcorn hole being stuck on the lingual 19. Turn this into an emergency, and everybody rushes into action with the rib spreaders. And so I was making fun of this movie back in the day, but nobody had seen it. So I'd like bring it up to Dennis, and nobody would know. And I'd say, come on, Corbin Burnson, LA Law, you guys haven't seen it, but nobody had seen it. So I think the three of us can hopefully single-handedly revive this movie.
I hope so, because I think it is must-see viewing. It debuted on October 18th, 1996. Other movies that came out that day: Portrait of a Lady, Sleepers, which actually was a pretty good movie that had Kevin Bacon and Bobby De Niro, and then the other movie that debuted that week, Swingers. So pretty good movie weekend.
Not bad.
Swingers is good. I haven't seen Sleepers in probably 15 or 20 years, but I've seen Swingers in the last 5 years or so, and it holds up. Mike, when was the last time you saw Swingers? Lance, when was the last time you saw Swingers?
It's been a while, but I just binged watch all 7 seasons of The Sopranos over the last week and a half. I mean, so it was so that's what I'm kind of comparing The Dentist to. Yeah. You know, I was watching David Chase and Matthew Weiner, write The Sopranos and
one of the greatest TV shows of all time, and then
I went right to The Dentist, and so for me, it wasn't.
It's like when you're at the club, you're at the health club, and you're in the hot tub, or you're in the sauna room, and you get in the cold ice tub
into the cold.
That's this,
right? Yeah. And so Jon Favreau was on there. On The Sopranos, and they talk about swingers, and Christopher, one of the characters who has these dreams of making his own movie, he and Jon Favreau have a couple great scenes in there where he gives him some constructive criticism on swingers as he pitches his own really ridiculous gangster sci-fi movie to him. So that made me want to see it again, and it made me want to watch Chef again, which is the last Favreau movie I probably saw that really had an influence on me because I ordered nothing but Cubano sandwiches for 2 years after that.
Chef is amazing. I love Chef.
Show.
Swingers is still great. It's one of those that kind of slips through the cracks a little bit, but I'd highly recommend Swingers. So I think of all those movies that came out that day, Swingers is probably the best out of all those.
Agreed.
I found 2 different numbers for budget, and I think I figured out where the discrepancy was. I found one number that said 3.2 million, and I found another number that said 700,000.
And my question is, what'd they do with the other 600,000?
So how much does Corbin Burnson get out of that? I mean, you have to pay him a good amount of money. He's obviously, that's the number one expense of this movie, I feel like.
Probably.
It's got to be Corbin Burnson.
That or the dead goat. And I know that doesn't make any sense right now, but so it's tough to say. I'm going to look up real quick what years LA Law was on TV.
I have that. We have a whole Corbin Burnson discussion.
Oh, got it. Okay. Was it in the midst of that? He was hot, right?
This is after. This is after LA Law.
Yeah, but I mean, he still, as opposed to before, that's impressive.
He still had a name.
We'll table that for a minute. So I also found that the movie grossed about $550,000. I saw different numbers ranging anywhere between 500 and then 750,000. So let's put it right in the middle, 550. 1996 top grossing movies: Independence Day, Twister, Mission Impossible, The Rock, Jerry Maguire, and then English Patient won Best Picture in 1996. So pretty good movie year, I would say. Stuff that is still in rotation everywhere. Right. And just for scale, Independence Day grossed $326 million, domestic and international. That's in theaters alone. That doesn't have anything to do with the rentals or anything like that. So, kind of outclassed here by the big movies.
But it was just a heartless shell of an action movie compared to The Dentist, where you had some true emotionally gripping moments that stick with you afterwards.
Filming locations: The Office, the exterior of The Office, which we talked about a little bit before we got started, is in Burbank, California. Does that look like Burbank to you, Mike?
The nicest part of Burbank. That's where Adam Carolla films his podcast. And there are some nicer parts of Burbank, but it's very kind of Los Angeles, 1980s kind of. This is mini, kind of adjacent to a mini mall, like a nice looking office building. It feels like Miami almost when you look at it. And he's got pink walls inside his dental office too. So it's got a very Miami Vice, I thought, kind of feel once you get at least the pink walls when you get inside the office. But yeah, that could be in almost any LA suburb, to be honest.
So where that was filmed, The Office in Burbank, California, that was just the exterior shots. All the interior shots were done on a dental office built on a movie studio lot. So we'll get into that in just a second. A lot of scenes happened in the house, the Dr. Feinstein's house, which I found out where the house is. It's at 16711 Bosque Avenue in Encino. So I don't know much about Encino, Mike. What's up with Encino?
Encino was the Calabasas of the 1980s. Like, you've got Encino was like the city, the suburb, like in the San Fernando Valley. So I'm down, you've got LA and you've got Orange County. And then on the other side of the mountains, you have the San Fernando Valley and Valley Girls, and Encino, man, it's kind of all those things that you're thinking of. But there's also a lot of Hollywood people who lived in Encino at the time. So big houses, nice houses. This is a very nice looking house from the outside. When you see it, there's a lot of kind of stunning things about this. And I've been to some dentist house. I've never been to like a dentist who lives in kind of in a house like this. That's one of the weird things about it. But it feels very Encino-ish or the not as good section of maybe Beverly Hills. But this could easily be in Beverly Hills as well.
Mm.
The house was very like late 80s-ish, right, Lance? Would you agree with that? Like the decor?
For sure.
There's a lot of like gold, like the metal piping around the fireplace was gold. That seems very like, oh, this was built in 1987, kind of chic.
I didn't notice that
because you didn't watch it 4 times. Interesting news on the house. So I did a little deep dive on the house. According to Zillow, the house last sold in 2012 for $5,000.
It's got to be.
Which I don't understand. Yeah, I don't auction? Like. Maybe they found out that the dentist was filmed there, and they just like when the Amityville Horror House when they like a family died in here. Oh, we have to give it away.
Yeah, or they just missed a decimal, a typo.
That may be it. It's valued at $3.9 million.
Yeah.
So for Encino, like for me in Texas, that's like $3.9 million would buy you a mansion. But in Encino, like that's not that. I would guess in your area, Mike, that's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. Well, in my area, it wouldn't have all that land. The closer you get to the beach, obviously things go up. But Encino, I bet the average house, there's a lot of parts of Encino that aren't that nice. So that's probably still higher, much higher than the average house there. But yeah, I mean, except for the decorations, I think that house kind of still holds up. But a lot of Hollywood and a lot of entertainment personalities have decamped to Calabasas. Where Kobe's helicopter crashed and where the Kardashians and Kanye West now are, which is more out in the country. And Encino's just smack dab in the middle of the valley where it gets hotter than hell, over 100 degrees, lots of traffic, lots of smog. Well, there used to be back when you could drive your car and it was still legal to eat in restaurants. But these days, you can see the mountain. You can see all kinds of things that you couldn't see before in LA. But next time you come out, Josh, let's go to the Comedy Store like we did last time. Oh, there's no way you're not going to have me take a picture of you standing on that front porch. And if we can hop the fence and get by the pool, maybe you can find that huge wad of gum they used for that fake tongue that was in the pool, whatever that was.
So I actually found an article that was written and published in the New York Times on April 14th, 1996 about the people who own that house.
Oh, wow.
And that house has been in a lot of movies. And so that lady pays for her entire house by having people shoot movies in the house. And so this article talks about all the things that have filmed there. Beverly Hills 90210 was shot there or shot scenes there. Ghost in the Machine did or filmed some stuff there. Ice Cube shot a video there. So lots of stuff. So she was getting around $4,000 a day for filming in her house. Wow. A movie called Polly with Felicia Rashad was shot there. So that's kind of what this house is for. So I guess that just seems like a very LA thing, Mike, is like having a house that you then like loan out to movie studios. Do you have any friends that have ever done that?
No, I mean, there's Jim Glidewell certainly could, with one of his. He's got this one on the Back Bay that looks, it feels a lot like kind of Graceland, and it's got this huge yard and these big tall ceilings on the inside. And he could certainly do that. So I don't know anybody personally, but you definitely hear stories about things like that. And it's hard to go around LA and not see posters up where they're, shooting in certain places. And there's definitely tours up there where they would drive you around the Brady Bunch house and the Partridge Family house. I doubt the dentist is on there, but the idea of renting your house out for an unprofitable 0-rated movie sounds awesome. I'd love to have those people running around in my house for a day or two.
Pasadena College was the site of the dental school that they filmed all the scenes done at the dental school. As far as I know, Pasadena College does not have a dental school. So they obviously did some makeshift stuff. They couldn't get USC, I guess, to let them film there.
Or UCLA. The shot of the dental school, it's so clearly not a dental school. It looks like an old improv. There's a brick wall in the back of it, like every comedy club has. And so it looks like it used to be a comedy club. And then, to make it look like a teaching setting, there's a big chalkboard. And in the middle, the word pain's written really big, which is like one of those, it's like one of those things that drives me crazy, like from that movie, what was the John Krasinski movie where
Quiet Place?
Yeah, did I ever tell you about that? How
yes,
the whiteboard, the whiteboard where it says how many are they? Do they react to sound? It's like, really? You have to write this down? You can't remember? It's like, why would you write the word pain on a chalkboard in dental school? It's like, what's that thing we're trying to avoid? Shoot, help me with it. It's like a shorter word. It's ridiculous. There's no way that's a dental school. That's a junior college. That probably cost nothing to be able to go in there. But they needed it. Obviously they couldn't go to a dental school because you can't have somebody singing opera, in a lecture hall. You needed, and that tied back to that opening. The obsession with the opera in this feels really.
There's a lot of opera in this, which reminded me, Lance, do you know any dentists who are into opera?
I can't think of one.
Mike and I know one.
Oh.
Mike, who am I thinking about?
Dr. Kim from Contact Season? Yeah. He sings, that guy's a genius. I love this guy. He's definitely one of my mentors. But he sings opera to his patients, and he's got them taped like on the wall of the operatory, and he sings it to them while he works.
He's definitely not a murderer, though.
Well, no. But if somebody were, he'd figure out a really good way to do it. I mean, he's got so many patents, dental and non-dental patents, that he invented it's total non sequitur, but he invented it's kind of like a Flowbee, but it's a way to cut hair, but it attaches to the end of a standard vacuum. He's got a patent for that, but never made it. And he just looks at problems and tries to think of easier ways to fix it. So he would come up with some really good ways. But yeah, that's the one.
So he could be a serial killer. He's brilliant enough to be a serial killer. He
is, but he also won a local Dancing with the Stars competition up where he lives. So yeah, he can't do both of those.
All right, we have to have the Corbin Burnson discussion now, because you can't talk about this movie without talking about Corbin Burnson. So, Lance, I ask you, is Corbin Burnson a household name?
In my household, yeah, because we liked the TV show Psych, and he was the dad.
I think there was a time where he was definitely a household name. And the funny thing is going through his IMDb page, I'm not sure why. Other than just the entertainment industry was much smaller during that time.
Apparently. Have you seen those blue eyes? Are you kidding me?
So let's go through this. Let's go through his deal. He started working in 1976 consistently. His big break was a TV show called LA Law, which ran from 86 to 94. He played one of the lead characters named Arnie Becker. Now, I think LA Law, what I remember, this was not I was 7 in 1986. So, obviously not consuming legal drama shows back then. But I remember Jimmy Smits from LA Law. I remember Corbin Burnson. And I remember there was a special needs guy that worked at the law firm. I don't know why. I don't know what that story was about. I don't know why I remember that.
I don't remember that quirky storyline, but I do remember everybody. It was big. That show was huge.
So, are we talking MASH big? Or are we talking biggest show on TV at the time, or one of?
It was up there. Yeah, I mean the People magazine, the cover stories would talk about the relationships and things. So it was definitely
big. Okay. Now this was during a time where there were TV actors and movie actors, and those were different things. Do you remember those days? Yeah. You would not get a movie star on TV, and a TV star would not go to movies, and when they cross over, it'd go bad. Nowadays, that seems all crazy because you see guys like Matthew McConaughey doing, True Detective and all kinds of stuff like that. And Bryan Cranston is a huge TV star who does a bunch of movies. And that day is kind of gone. But back then, I think he probably got pigeonholed in as a TV actor.
Of course, he did Major League, kind of in the
well. So that's the big movie role is Major League in 1989. So obviously, off the heat of LA Law, he played Roger Dorn, the third baseman who didn't want to dive. Who also was cuckolded in that movie as well, I believe, right? Didn't didn't Charlie Sheen sleep with his wife in that movie?
Probably.
That's a good question. I didn't see it.
I'm pretty sure. And he didn't snap and kill all of his teammates.
Not that we know. No.
So that would have been a different movie. There was a Major League 2 that Corbin Burnson was in 1994. He did a bunch of TV movies from 94 until even like now, kind of. So I think it was LA Law, Major League, and then it's kind of been downhill for Corbin Burnson from there. I think he came up at the wrong time, where once you got a role on TV, that's what you were. You were a TV actor, and I think he's been trying to break out of that. Because if you look at his IMDb, it is a long list of things that say TV movie.
Yeah, by the way, LA Law won 15 Emmys, including 4 for Outstanding Drama Series. So,
yeah.
Wow. Did Corbin Burnson ever win an Emmy?
That's a good question. But according to Celebrity Net Worth, his net worth is $16 million, but that's a combined net worth with his wife of 30 years, Amanda Pays. So who knows? I think he, to me, he has one thing in common with the character he plays in The Dentist. And I figured they were both having IRS trouble. And that might have been why he did this movie, because it's such a questionable, weird choice for a guy who had, I don't know. I don't remember not liking him on LA Law, but he was kind of an abrasive personality, but I don't know. It seems weird to be that big and kind of not get steady work afterwards.
Yeah.
But then again, you don't see Jimmy Smits everywhere either, right? I mean, it doesn't seem like
it pops up here and there, but he's not.
Yeah, like character roles.
Right.
Yeah.
Seems like. So he's been married for 30 years to the same person?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
it looks like they got
her.
married. Looks like they got married in 88. Before that, he was married to someone else for 4 years. So he's on his second marriage. She's an English actress, Amanda Pays. I don't know much about her at all. It does not look like he ever won an Emmy. When I spoke briefly to Gina Dorfman, and she told me Mike DiTolla looks like Corbin Burnson.
Well, he did lose his hair and shaves his head now, but he's got, I think it's more, people have said Bruce Willis before, if I'm like 10 pounds, 15 pounds lighter than I am now, that comes up. But you could say that about anybody who, I guess, shaves their head who has kind of a certain shaped head. I mean, it's kind of like
Mike DiTolla looks like Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, and Charles Barkley. But
a fun aside. Corbin Burnson was in an episode of Law and Order at some point in the early 90s. My brother, who was trying to act in New York at the time, was his double, his stand-in for that episode of Law and Order in New York back in like 1992. So weird aside.
Wow, that is.
It's almost like you know him.
We're best friends. Or something. So Corbin Burnson is when you say the name. When I would say the name The Dentist, I would always say the movie with Corbin Burnson. And so these two are inextricably tied. And why he chose to do this, and then why he chose to make a sequel to this called The Dentist 2 is just beyond me. But I'm glad that he did. He makes this movie better. He's obviously his acting in this movie. It's hard to judge his acting because the script is so terrible. But he did okay with it. There were a couple of scenes that were not terrible. The first 5 seconds did you guys notice the first 5 seconds to 60 seconds of the movie? He's pretending to do dentistry. Like he's with his hands, he's kind of miming putting a handpiece on the delivery system, and he's miming like the footwork that he would use to start the rheostat and all that.
Yeah,
it's obvious.
And it also seemed like they wanted the illusion of conducting, this opera at the same time, and it was a real unnecessary stretch. But I did feel like he was like practicing in heaven. I was confused.
Yeah, white scrubs, white room. Yeah, very angelic kind of deal, and it links back up to it at the end, obviously.
Yeah, I thought it was a kind of an homage, a Kubrick thing for Clockwork Orange, but it wasn't.
No. There are some homages. We'll get into that into the trivia when we get there. There are some homages, but not to Kubrick, at least that I could find in research. So let's get through the scenes. Let's go through the categories. So the first category we're going to do is the most unwatchable scene. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 scenes nominated. You guys feel free to interject here.
Okay.
If there's one that I missed, fill that in. If there's something you want to discuss about any of these scenes, you let me know. So the first scene I think is obviously, I think it's the most important scene of the movie. It's the scene where he catches Brooke with Matt the Pool Man. That whole scene, there's a fantasy that's involved with that. It's just spectacular from start to finish. It's the impetus for the whole movie. The whole movie, the tone is set for the whole movie in literally the first 6 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. I was blown away that the pool guy was sleeping with all the women in the neighborhood. That is some insane out of the box thinking in terms of creativity. That's something so obvious, though. I wonder how all of us didn't think of that, even though it's been in every fifth porn movie since World War II. That is just such an. I'm surprised a pizza delivery guy didn't show up and they turned it into a three-way. It was just like it was embarrassingly obvious
on the nose. Yeah,
but I want to just at the beginning of the movie. Something I don't think Corbin Burnson handled well, and I can't wait to hear what you think he handled well. But I love the phone call he gets in the beginning where he's like, "I'd love to act this out. Where's my phone? Hello, the IRS." Yes, it's me. So it's like they must call and go, "Hello, this is the Internal Revenue Service," and he goes, "The IRS," and they're like, "Is this you?" "Yes, it's me." It's just so. It's like, do you remember that, Josh? It's just such a bad moment. And then the first fight he has with Brooke in that scene.
Yeah.
Here's this dentist. We've seen how part of the things that are going to change from COVID-19 are going to be dentists not wearing golf shirts to the office anymore, probably to work, probably actually wearing something with elastic sleeves. But he's really pissed off at his wife because he can't wear his diamond cufflinks because they're at the jeweler's having the stones reset.
Yeah, that was in my notes.
Cufflinks and dentists do not go.
No.
The closest you get is Josh and his Vineyard Vines and the clothing brand loyalty and dentists are a stretch, let alone wearing cufflinks to the office.
Every scene he's in, he has cufflinks on.
Yeah.
Right.
Cufflinks are a big part of the movie. And it starts with he comes down the stairs with the pink shirt that's got the stain on it around the monogram that's his monogrammed initials onto the pocket. And he's bitching at Brooke because she didn't notice the stain on his shirt when she picked it up, and he has to wear his white shirt. Now, he already has his white shirt on. He's bitching about not being able to wear the pink shirt, but he doesn't want to wear the white shirt because he always wears his diamond cufflinks with the white shirt. But then she gives him the anniversary present. She got him platinum cufflinks, and he was able to tell they were platinum just by looking at them. I guess from casting all the crowns, you become a metallurgist or something like that. I don't know.
There's a bit of that. Yeah.
Lance, can you tell platinum just by looking at it?
I usually have to bite down on it.
You have to bite it or taste it.
Like an old miner.
Right. You do like the old miner dance?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, nice.
I'll be honest. Probably once a day I mistake it for palladium. I'm getting it wrong all the time.
Right,
I'm being asked to check metals all the time. I'm getting it wrong, frankly. I'll be honest most of the time.
Yeah, well.
Now, they do have a little tender moment in the bathroom where he kisses her. He notices that she has nothing on under her robe. And he's frightened for her safety from the pool man is really what it seems like. I don't know if you guys noticed that. He's definitely worried about her getting raped. And then he notices that she's got oil all over her arm, which comes into play in just a second. And as he's leaving, he walks out. And there's Matt the pool man, who's one of my favorite characters of the whole deal. And he's got on he's dressed like a Marky Mark video, right? Like acid wash jeans.
Mm-hmm.
And like a tank top. I've never worn a tank top like this, but where you take the tank top and you cut it so that it hangs lower everywhere. Have you ever seen that move?
Everywhere in Los Angeles.
Okay,
Every gym in Los Angeles. Absolutely.
It seems like a Venice Beach kind of move, right?
Totally.
Like a Muscle Beach. Yeah.
Got some good vibrations on that.
Exactly. Yeah. And he has on a purple do-rag, which reminds me of... Have you ever seen that scene from The Office where Michael Scott pretends that he was in prison?
Prison Mike.
Prison Mike with the purple do-rag. Yeah. It's the same purple do-rag. It's the same exact one.
It totally is. And you texted that to me. And I was like, holy shit. And then I pulled that up, and it was exactly it. And then I went back and watched Michael Scott as Prison Mike, trying to explain, because they have that guy in the accounting department on The Office who had served time before Martin. And he goes into, it's just one of the classic Office scenes. And it's, those are the only two purple bandanas in movie history.
I've ever seen.
So it's a really good call on your part.
Did you guys notice that the pull man, that he had on a pretty ostentatious timepiece on his wrist? Did you guys? Was this just me? I'm a watch aficionado.
Apparently.
The pull man is wearing a solid gold Rolex Presidential. I mean, it's a $30,000 watch.
I really expected that it was going to turn out that she gave him one of the dentist watches, and that was my thinking.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Like, this has to be something but they never address it. He's just wearing a solid gold Rolex, which is just absolutely spectacular.
I didn't notice that. Yeah, I did notice along the same scene where the wife smokes, and then he gets mad, so he has to go brush his teeth because she smoked.
Because he kissed her, right?
Yeah.
I thought that's what it was.
I have to go brush my teeth again. That's probably the best acted moment in the whole deal, that he would really care that she was smoking. There was a lot of cigarettes in this movie. She smokes a good amount. I think there's someone else that lights up at some point.
I think the assistant, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. But yeah, very, very smoke scene. I love that. Lance, have you ever had a pool? I don't know if there's a lot of people who have pools in Seattle, since there's not much time to spend outside.
There's a couple, but not me. I've never had one.
So he's working on the quote unquote sludge filter of the pool, and there's all this oil everywhere, but they're right next to the pool. And when you build a pool, none of the maintenance equipment is put right next to the pool. He's basically cleaning out like the skimmer net, the skimmer bag, like out of, that's right in the pool.
Okay.
But they're pretending that has a motor on it that has a lot of oil. And that's obviously not true. Like, if your filter pump goes, needs a new motor or whatever, that oil is going to be way back, like in the maintenance closet, like on the side of the house. It's not going to be right next to the pool.
Gotcha.
But I did love how they like really keyed in on the oil and just showed Matt, the pool guy, just scrubbing it all over his pants, and it's just everywhere. And that's really what clued him in on the fact that she was being tender with Matt.
Right. Meanwhile, the sludge filter should have actually been in his dental office on the suction device. We always fight over who has to go clean out that disgusting thing with the chunks of tooth and gingiva on it. And so Corbin Burnson, as the dentist, has a real fetish about anything that's dirty. And I kind of get that. We live like close to the beach, but I hate eating at the beach. I hate when sand gets into things, but it doesn't send me into a murderous rage. So he leaves the house, and then the pool guy and his wife start to hook up, and there's some simulated...
Literally within seconds. Within seconds. You never do it right away. You give it like a 5 to 10 minute buffer to make sure that they don't come back, right? I mean, that's just good, solid adultery.
Well, Josh, all right, I'll take your word on. I'll take your word for that's the way to keep from...
should write a pamphlet. Keep
from getting caught, but... then pretty soon there's just a really bad simulation of oral pleasure that's being given. It's trying to shot in a way to make it look real, but it's very clear that it's not. Nothing real is going on.
It's not real. Corbin Burnson, Alan Feinstein witnesses this, and this is what sends him off and going. And then he has probably my favorite moment of the movie. It's in the first 10 minutes. And that's when he has the fantasy about what he's going to do about this. And he goes outside and he puts he holds his gun, which his gun is great, by the way. We need to talk about the gun right quick. The gun is a chrome plated pistol with a mother of pearl handle. It's the most effeminate gun of all time.
Right.
And it plays a huge role in the movie. He's always fingering the gun. It's always in his pocket. It's always with him. He holds the gun up to Matt, the pool boy, and pushes her head down onto Matt. And we'll get into it in a minute. But my favorite line of the whole movie is where he's... I don't want to read it because we're going to get into it. But he says, she's the wife of a dentist. That means she has a perfect bite.
Right.
Show him that perfect bite, honey.
Right. The guy who wrote it thought that was one of the most clever things
Yes.
that he had ever come up with about that. You know, that means she has a perfect bite. And it was just found a way to be able to, you know, get him to start biting while she's giving these oral pleasures. And, you know, he must have thought, oh, this is, I can tell there's a couple times where, you know, there was a self-satisfied sniff when he wrote something. And that really feels like one of them right there. Like he comes up with the connection of bite and bite and goes, ooh, I got it.
Good. But alas, it's all just a fantasy, and he drives away. And then he goes to the next. Then he starts following Matt, the pool guy, which is where he finds that Matt is also sleeping with the neighbor across the street, Paula. Sure. Matt is a machine. Matt literally just climaxed from the oral pleasures with Brooke, the wife,
he must,
and now
clearly
he must. I mean, there's some serious. His
stamina.
What do you call that?
He doesn't have a refractory period.
Refractory period. Yeah, his refractory period is
measured in milliseconds
at best.
Right.
Yes. Good for him, though. I mean,
like
really good for him. Yeah, good for him. So that whole scene is just amazing. It sets the pace of the movie. Do you guys have anything else to add about that scene?
Well, I like when he goes to talk. It looks like they've already implemented social distancing when he goes to talk to the neighbor. He's a good 12 feet from her as he's talking to her. And she yawns. She conveniently yawns during this conversation. And he's like, looks like we need to replace a filling. And so they cut to a shot of her while she's yawning. And it's just her anterior teeth. And they're perfect. So somehow he has diagnosed a posterior tooth from 12 feet away as she yawns.
With no radiograph.
With no radiograph, and says, we need to get you in for that filling. I'll have my office call you. When have you ever said that to a patient? I'll have my office call you. And then faithfully, they do have him go to the office, and they're like, call Mrs. Blank for this filling. And it's like, well, this is strong arming that I saw in The Sopranos over the last couple of days. You can't just call people up and tell them they have to come into the office. So
I'm going to start doing that. That's going to be my new deal. I'm just going to see people at the store and just be like, there's a problem there. My office will call you.
I do like that at one point in the movie. I don't remember when, but he's got a picture on his desk.
I was going to bring this up.
Of the wife, his wife, and this neighbor that you're talking about sitting by the pool wearing bikinis with glasses of wine. And the pool guy just happens to be in the background of the photograph. It's like, how did this happen?
How convenient.
It's insanely staged. And if he took the picture, didn't he see the pool guy back there? Why? I mean, and then there's one of the special effects you talk about where Matt disappears from the picture, just kind of bleeds out of it. Did you notice that?
I did. Yeah. Very, very Back to the Future-esque of Matt sort of disappearing from the frame. I love the fact that he's got a framed photo of his neighbor in a bikini on his desk. That would be like me having a picture of Andrea and Lindsay sitting by the pool with bikinis on, framed on my desk. Like, that's not really appropriate for me to have on my desk.
With Gordon Christensen in the background getting the leaves out of the pool or something like that. It's like, how did he get there? It's just like, really? He happened to be cleaning it and they happened to be posing with wine glasses. But if this, of course, leads to him like going into the backyard to see what Matt and Paula, is that her name, Paula? To see what those two are doing in the backyard. And that's where he, the ferocious, I don't know, you're a dog guy. Was that a Doberman? What was that, a Rottweiler? That's
the other thing. So this is the nice part of Encino. It was a pit bull.
Oh, it was a pit bull.
Yeah, and Paula is just like the whitest spread woman on the face of the earth. Just has this mean, ferocious, like dogfighting pit bull in her backyard. I felt like that was she would have like a Yorkie, I feel like, or like a teacup poodle, something like that. Before she would have
that dog must have run away from like the Inland Empire from Riverside County and somehow got in the 91 and the 10, found a way to her house because it was at a place and it was an angry dog.
It was a very angry dog, and he had to put that dog down, which we'll talk about in a little bit. My next most unwatchable scene. This is actually the scene that made me cringe the most in the whole movie. The Jody the child scene. You guys remember this scene?
Oh yeah.
This scene was really tough. So this was, I guess, was it the first patient? Yeah, this is the first patient he sees when he gets in that day. And he has to pretend being really nice to Jody, who's his first dentist
visit. It's a boy, by the way. We have to say,
yeah, Jody the boy.
God knows what reason. And they spelled it Jody. I had the captions on for this movie. So, for example, one of the patients' name is April Rained.
Yes.
And they spell it Reign. It's like, okay, whatever. I mean, it's not even... It's bizarre. It was bizarre. So Jody, was a little boy who was at the office for his first visit.
for his first visit, and he goes back into the rainforest room. So all the rooms are themed.
Themed, yeah.
Did you guys notice that the clinical attire changed based on what room they were in?
I did, yeah. The big
So
cloud
bad.
smock. Yeah.
Well, the hygienist, who was kind of an assistant too, but really kind of a hygienist.
I'm assuming the Asian lady was
Yes.
the hygienist, Karen.
She looked like she had just graduated from something 4 minutes ago and then walked into the dental office. She's wearing some blue kind of flowing. So her clinical attire was like a cap and gown without the cap.
Yeah, it's like a choir gown.
Yeah, it was like I wore stuff like that when I was an altar boy in the Catholic Church. That's the kind of thing I wore. Yeah.
So Jody's in the rainforest room, and there's a line in the rainforest room that I just loved. Let me see if I can find it. He's talking to Jody's mom, and he says something about like, we've turned dentistry into interactive medicine.
Yeah.
Not like, dude, you hung up a poster with some animals on it. That's not exactly interactive medicine. That line just floored me. And then he's working on Jody, and that's when he sees the sort of decay. He hallucinates it, and then he stabs Jody in the palate. And have you ever stabbed anybody in the palate to make them bleed like that?
I can't think of once.
No, but it was funny. It looked like he was trying to do a cleaning with the Explorer, because they had no idea what a dentist would actually do with the Explorer. So he's just going around, and then he stabs the kid, and it's like he hit the carotid artery. I mean, it's just insane what happens.
And I love the way that Jody's mom literally carries him out like she's in Saving Private Ryan. And he just has blood running out of his mouth, and he's lightheaded. He's passing in and out of consciousness as she's carrying him out from this minor injury on the palate of his upper teeth.
Oh yeah, it was like he went into some kind of like peyote fever dream, as he was doing this with the Explorer. And that's what seems like it kind of caused this, because he's looking at the kid's teeth, and then all of a sudden they're all stained. So this is like a recurring theme that he starts hallucinating how dirty it is, and it reminds him of the sludge filter at the pool, and that's when he starts to lose it. So yeah, he hits the kid's like incisive papilla, like he's holding a chainsaw. And then, the mom runs out of the room holding her semi-conscious son. And the sound they dubbed in was a newborn crying. The kid's like 5, and you're like, where's the newborn? Somebody needs to be fed. And you're like, oh, that went way too young on the sound effect here.
Yeah, the Foley work in this movie is interesting. There's a lot of high-speed noises and stuff like that. And there's a lot of like metal instruments and stuff like that. So props to whoever did Foley on this. I think back to like the old days of like radio shows,
right? And
they would like, if it was horses, galloping by, they would take like 2 coconuts and clank them on a thing of wood. Like, how would you Foley a dental handpiece if you didn't have a real handpiece? I wouldn't know how to engineer that.
They clearly recorded high-speed handpieces, but there is one great goof where they show him holding a slow-speed handpiece, and it's the sound of a high-speed. It's like, oh, they didn't even bother to do that. But while we're on the rainforest room, there's a scene later in the rainforest room operatory where the IRS guy comes in, and he looks around. He's like, hell, this place is like a palace. And it's basically like 20 fake plants around the room is all it is. So if you consider like the fake plant aisle at Michael's to be palatial, then I guess it's a palace. But it's like they had no money to even, like, a rainforest room should have some sort of moisture in it or sound. Go to the Rainforest Cafe. I don't think Rainforest.
Well, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of like animatronic gorillas like sweeping down from the room and like or sweeping down from the roof and like eating a banana or whatever. That to me is palatial.
Yeah, there's nothing palatial about these 10 by 10 operatories with dust collecting fake plants all over them. Oh, but the tray table, even when they bring in the tray table of the instruments, it's got like a little palm tree on it too. It's just like the most.
And the bibs, the bibs that they wore in the rainforest room had like hibiscus plants on them or something like that.
Right. Have you guys seen? There's a dentist who's just crushing it out here in LA. He actually got Sanrio to co-sponsor his Hello Kitty office. Have you seen this guy?
I have not seen this.
I wish I could remember his name, but he's on the cover of Dental Town. That's where I originally saw him. He's on the cover of Dental Town. He's got 2 practices now, but he got the Japanese company Sanrio to do his office as the first Hello Kitty dental office because his daughter had a really bad lung infection last year and was in the hospital. and she wanted all her Hello Kitty stuff, and that, they kind of feel that this is part of what helped her get through this and recover. And so they told that story to Sanrio, who owns the trademark for that. And they liked that story and his mission of using Hello Kitty to help children who are anxious about being at the dentist by having this theme in the office. And they went all out with all kinds of trademark stuff. And now he's got people, not just kids, but adult fans, as you might expect. It's not just My Little Pony. There's adult Hello Kitty fans too, flying in from parts of Asia to come in and have cleanings and have work done in this Hello Kitty office. It's amazing. That's what theming looks like in a dental office.
Not this.
Operatory.
And the assistant, Jessica, had to put on like a Hawaiian shirt. That was like her personal protective equipment in the rainforest room. Something tells me, I think, not exactly a virus barrier, that Hawaiian shirt that she put on.
Yeah, it's just silly. I mean, silly. Just trying to. Well, you said you sent me something that said they didn't have a lot of money for props and things like that. Like even that scene where the kid's playing with like one Lego, in the reception area or whatever he's trying to do. It's like,
it doesn't have anything to snap it even on together against,
Yeah, and it was pretty creepy the way Corbin Burnson was talking to that kid before he brought him back there.
He was hi, Jody. Is this your first visit to the dentist? It was really like over the top. That's probably the best acting that Corbin Burnson does in the entire movie. The next most unwatchable scene is Brooke's extraction scene. So this is Brooke is meeting him at the office to go to the anniversary dinner, and he's going to incapacitate her and get her all dentulated, I guess. And there's probably pound for pound more goofs in this few minutes of the movie than anywhere else. So she comes to the office. She's all dressed up because it's anniversary, right? She's got the little black dress on with some kind of weird sort of 80s weird mesh jacket of some sort. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, it was very Stevie Nicks, like something she would wear. Kind of like witch-like, kind of like, a lot of flowy stuff back then, and like Seinfeld's poofy shirt, from back in that time.
Shoulder pads, yeah. So he is there to surprise her with her anniversary gift.
But he's wearing a tuxedo.
He has a tuxedo on. He has not left the office, which means he has a tuxedo at the office, ready to roll. And not only did he have a tuxedo, he had on a white scarf, like the tuxedo scarf that goes with it.
Meanwhile, it's 88 degrees outside.
I was going to say, it's pool weather in LA. Why does he need this scarf?
He doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't need the scarf. He keeps a tux at the office for the prom operatory, apparently, when he's working in there. And I like how he tells his wife earlier in the day, he's seen like one kid. That's his first patient, who mother carries him out after 2.5 minutes. And he talks to his wife on the phone. He's like, I'm running late. You'll have to meet me at the office. You've seen one patient for 2.5 minutes and he already running late. But that's ridiculous, the way he comes out dressed like that. I mean, that's the only time dentists wear tuxedos is the oral health gala at Chicago Midwinter. I mean, maybe
like America's Tooth Fairy.
Yeah, maybe some ADA stuff that you used to do. Your 7-year commitment, your endless commitment.
Thank God it's over. He then proceeds to show Brooke his anniversary present to her, which is he's equipped a new operatory. Which could you, Lance? Could you imagine if you told Holly, I have this huge gift for you?
That's not going to go over very well.
It's the 4th operatory.
Yeah, she doesn't give two shits about that, and she'll be pissed off at how much money I would have spent for something completely useless like that.
That literally would go over worse than saying I have a huge surprise for you and then unzipping your pants. The only thing worse than that is even a Dyson vacuum cleaner is not that bad compared to you're not a dentist. Let me show you an operatory it doesn't even make sense unless she was a dentist too. Unless they, one of those couples who met in dental school, but there's no allusion to her being a dentist or anything else. So.
No.
No, but you think about it, like he does have that when he calls her, like you said, and he's like so behind after seeing one patient for 2 minutes. He says, "Do you remember our first practice?" So there was that. Right. And then there's the scene at the end where she is doing dentistry for him. So maybe she was a dentist. Maybe that was like a plot line that got cut out.
She would have. if they would have had kids, it would make sense that she's been away,
right?
To practice for a couple of years, or if they said she's like an associate at Pacific or something like that, that would have made sense too. But
no,
he's named the operatory. Do you remember what the operatory was named?
La Scala.
La Scala. I guess, which is Mike, help me out. It was a reference to Italian opera.
Yes. It means the staircase in English, but yes, it refers to an Italian opera. And so there's a lot of opera singing in this movie because, us dentists with our diamond cufflinks, all listening to opera, not alternative rock, or
right.
We're all like very, very high end and very, this is right in our wheelhouse. And so that's how we would decorate our operatory. And I think he describes it, Josh, as this is my vision. It's the ultimate operatory, which we tried to sell at CEREC 30, $100 chair is the ultimate operatory. But his version of it is, it's the combination of the best in, what is it? Technology and tradition. What does he say?
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what he says. Yeah.
And the dental, I grew up in one of the only houses in Southern California that had a basement, and my dad was a dentist. I think we probably talked about this, Josh, but my dad collected dental stuff and put it down in the basement. So he had an old dental chair in the basement, which when my friends, we also had a pinball machine down there that we got for Christmas one year. So we go down in the basement, and my friends would be super excited. We're like 9, 10, 11 years old, and they'd see the pinball machine. Then they see this old dentist chair over in the corner. They'd be like, what the hell is that? Is that how your father disciplines you? And then there was one of those old cabinets that just reeked of eugenol every time you open the doors. That chair looks like it was on loan from the ADA museum and dragged into there.
It had the headrest part that had just like two little circles like the size of a baseball to like nestle the head. It wasn't really even a headrest per se. There was literally no technology in that room whatsoever. But this is the marriage of technology and tradition.
The technology, they were just missing that cone X-ray head from back in the 1930s. The interior looked like the worst Italian restaurant that you've ever heard, and reminded you of the worst Billy Joel song you've ever heard about an Italian restaurant at the same time. And then to sedate her, his favorite thing is nitrous oxide. This guy's in love with nitrous oxide.
He uses it for everything.
Uses it for everything. And it is kind of a cure-all. I'll give him that. It's and every patient gets it for whatever. I don't think the kid had it, but every other patient has it, even though.
Yeah, why wouldn't you give it? That's the one who needs it the most is the freaking kid.
And on the kid's first appointment, who doesn't just going to say, I'm going to count your teeth? Whatever happened to that and just counting teeth? And so he takes the nitrous mask. Well, first of all, he grabs his wife and ties her down to the dental chair, then puts the nitrous mask on her and then grabs over the portable nitrous thing. And this is another one of those goofs. There's no tanks on it. So she's breathing the air of the room and somehow is unconscious. It's like one of those
within
faith healers.
3 seconds.
Yeah, it's like one of those faith healers where they come to the front, they're speaking in tongues, they hit them on the head, and they touch them on the head, and they lose consciousness. So the La Scala room, there's loud opera playing, and it's obnoxious. And I think you mentioned it earlier. There is a collection of instruments that I don't know what profession they're from, but it's not dentistry unless it's like turn of the century stuff. Lance, you remember that set of instruments?
I remember the setup, and I took notes on it going, what the hell is that?
There were a lot of things that I didn't know what they were. So
I noticed the nitrous was upside down and then right side up.
They did that multiple times. There are multiple scenes where in one shot it's upside down and one shot it's right side up.
Yeah.
The extraction tray setup is some kind of crazy forceps that looks like vice. I don't think they're actually forceps. I think they're vice grips.
Right.
There's a mallet on the tray.
There is, like my dad used to seat crowns with. Yeah. When cement was so thick that you had to like anterior crowns. I remember seeing him with a wooden dowel, a stick, and tapping it into place. I will say this for Corbett, for the dentist in the movie. Can't even remember. Feinstein, right? Is that it? Feinstein?
Yeah, Alan Feinstein.
Total props to him. He's all about the forceps. He knows elevators.
No elevation.
Periotomes. Those are for pussies, man. He's just in there with the forceps, just cranking down on that PDL. He can expand bone, with those things and get those teeth out of there. Power to the forceps. He taught me a lesson.
At some point, it looks like some orthopedic surgery instrument or like a huge periotome is on there. And then it looks like there's a tooth key. Do you remember the tooth key from like dental history?
No.
The tooth key was something that was like that barber surgeons would use to extract teeth. If you just Google tooth key, you'll find of this thing. And this was literally like a new version of the tooth key was on that setup, on that tray setup.
I did not notice that, but I do like it. Doesn't I don't think the big reveal is in this scene, is it? Where we see what he did to her?
Not really. You see him extract a couple of teeth,
Right.
but it's not until the next scene that you see it. There's an anesthetic syringe on the tray. I don't know why he wasn't planning on using anesthetic on her. So why would you put out a syringe if you're not going to numb her up if you're doing this for torture?
I think he was going to use that reversal agent. What's the name of it?
Like Onset or whatever?
No, not the buffer ones. What's the reversal one for people who have to go back to work and don't want to buy their tongue?
That's right.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah.
None of us can think of it. Hey, great marketing job, company, whoever you are. I think he was going to use that just in case she had any residual lidocaine in her system from before. He just, kind of like if you use Narcan on
or
somebody, it gets or a verse. Did you Google that? Do you remember?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. I do like, though, the big reveal as we see her face. He extracted all of her upper teeth. But for some reason, he must have decided he had an extra 3 or 4 hours to kill. He prepped all her lower teeth.
I saw that he did prep.
Yeah.
He prepped.
And
they actually looked like pretty nice prep.
I was going to say no temporaries, but the preps were a little over tapered, but otherwise it was pretty conscientious dentistry considering he's working on this person he hates. I mean, if we saw preps that good at Glywell most of the time, we'd be pretty happy. So there's this murderous rage of pulling her teeth out. And he's like, well, we're not going to dinner. You know what? I'm going to prep a lower arch. I don't have to pack cord because I'm not going to impress or temporize. I'm going to prep, switching burrs and making all these nice preps. That was insane, but that was
Did you notice what he used as a mouth prop?
Well, there was a couple different things used in the movie.
In this scene, he uses a sphincter. Do you remember a sphincter?
I do.
Yeah.
That connects. It's supposed to connect to your saliva ejector.
Well, yeah, and it goes under. It goes under.
Yes.
It's for the mandibular, and it goes under the chin, and then you crank it down. But here is being used to crank her mouth open. Nobody here has seen a bite block in this movie, which got me trying to remember when were bite blocks invented. And it reminds me, one of the most accurate parts of this movie, at least dentally, I think, is that you never see a rubber dam used the whole time. And that pretty much reflects every dental office I've been in. That's the one part they got right. At no point is there a rubber dam being broken up.
Next scene that I really enjoyed was the conflict with Jessica, the dental assistant. You guys remember this scene?
Well, yeah. Do you know that actress's name? Because I Googled her because I knew I'd seen her in more stuff.
Go ahead, Lance, if you have it off the top of your head.
Just that she's in Some Kind of Wonderful as the best friend.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Shane or Sean or something like that.
Her name in the movie, she's Jessica, I believe. And Molly Hagan is her name.
Molly Hagan, that's right.
So she's probably the one.
She's from Minnesota.
She's the fourth most famous actress in the movie. She was in Election. She was in Sully. You said she was in what? She was in
Some Kind of Wonderful.
Some Kind of Wonderful.
What year was that?
87?
87, yeah, 87, 88. Lindsay just rewatched that and recognized her. She's in some more modern stuff too. She actually works. Yeah, she works a lot. How is she the fourth most? What did you say? She's the fourth most? I know who the first is.
Yeah, Corbin, the IRS guy, her.
And then the IRS guy.
The IRS guy was from Terminator. He was a pretty important part from Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, but you're missing the biggest star from the whole movie.
Well, we haven't.
We'll get to that in just a second.
Oh,
we can't.
Yeah,
we'll get to that in just a second. So yeah, she's the third or fourth.
Okay.
I would say.
The IRS guy does a lot of heavy lifting in this movie.
So we'll get to him in a second. He's amazing.
Yeah, those of us, watching out for scams and everything, the IRS doesn't call. They mail letters.
Yeah, I was thinking that because that's like now a robocall thing. It's like the IRS calling you.
If you're getting an IRS call, know it's a scam. So don't give your ID out. So,
but you know what they do a lot of is bartering.
Yes,
dentistry. Well, he's not at the gardener. I mean, this guy is going to barter back taxes for dentistry. Yeah. And Josh, you mentioned earlier, he walks in, the laser welding reference. Those aren't veneers. He puts them in a Dappin dish, because they're just like looking around the room going, they look like posterior crowns. He wasn't missing
I was trying to figure out what they were.
Yeah, he wasn't missing any veneers. But here he's threatening this guy, threatening to take him. It's so insane that he's threatening this guy, yelling at him, I'm going to take you down, I'm going to finish you. Or you can work in my mouth for me. How could that go wrong? It's like...
Well, what I was curious was this movie is so bad. Clearly, they didn't have a dental consultant, but did the person who wrote the script ever go to the dentist? Has he been in one? Because none of it
makes any sense. No. The IRS agent, do you remember the scene? It's when he's trying to get back. He bribes the girl that's trying to get her braces off.
Yes.
To go ahead of her.
Yes.
And he slips her $20.
$20, right.
Do you need the bribe or are you giving bribes? Which one is it? He greases her palm.
Right.
And is as sort of swarthy as you can possibly get. That scene with the IRS agent is rough because he's asking about how hot his wife is, which is. Well, I've never asked any of my people who have rendered medical care to me, like, hey, is your wife a hot piece or what?
Yeah, and he gives the little girl, the girl who's getting her braces off. By the way, good to see Corbin Burnson does comprehensive orthodontics.
He's full ortho.
Full ortho, and he's going to be taking brackets and bands off today. And he gives her the 20, and she's like, I can't take this. Now, in The Sopranos, Tony closes your hand and say, don't insult me, but not this guy. He takes it back and tries to teach her a life lesson about always take the money. And it's like, that's a really good life lesson. And when he's talking about, how hot the wife is, that's when he throws out that line, Brooke, such a waspy name. Again, he's going to insult his wife as he's getting ready to work on him. And then he says, oh, those shiksa broads. They really know how to do the deed.
That is definitely in my favorite lines.
Did you Google that?
I mean, I know what shiksa means.
Oh, how do you know what that means?
I believe it was in an episode of Seinfeld. Elaine was referred to as shiksa.
Okay, a Gentile girl who's who's dating like a Jewish man.
Yeah.
Okay,
yep.
I didn't know that. I feel like Rich Maddow should have used that term with me at some point up to our life.
That definitely adds credence to the fact that Corbin Burnson is supposed to be Jewish in this movie.
Exactly. Yeah. If the name didn't do it, the shiksa reference will.
Yeah.
What about his shoes? Did his shoes help you think that he was Jewish? Did you see his shoes?
Were they Reebok pump?
They showed them. No, they showed them multiple times. They are black loafers, but with the white leather like on the toe.
Oh, yeah.
They show them multiple times. They're tassel loafers.
Tassels, yeah.
Black tassel loafers with white leather.
That is a fourth watching detail right there. When I asked earlier what it was that you learned by watching it a second, third, and fourth time, that is apparently it.
There it is.
Yeah, that's one of them actually. So the IRS scene, he cranks him up on nitrous like everybody else, right?
Yep, of course.
And then he grabs an articulator, just like we would call it a slapper articulator. What's the word for that articulator? That's not like a semi-adjustable articulator.
Barn door hinge.
Yeah. It wasn't quite a vertex, but it was far from a Dane.
Like a hinge articulator.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just somehow crammed into his mouth.
Yes. As a bite block, again, it's using a something else besides a bite block for this.
Now, if we were making this movie, Josh and Lance, we would have crammed the articulator in his mouth, and then just at the end, just for the detail for the dentist watching, we would open and drop the incisal pin down the rest of the way, just like as a detail thing, and maybe set the Bennett, the condylar inclination at the same time.
Right? Yeah, and that the Bennett
go back
shift.
to the
Can't forget about that. And then we get into the point that's really, Mike's your favorite line. It's in my top lines where he just starts cutting on the guy's mouth. And let me see if I can find where I have it written down. He screams, "Get your tongue out of the way, get it out of the way, God damn it," which is such like something every single person listening to this and watching this has had that moment
every day.
I was like, Dennis Power, you've never not thought that. I've always wanted to put a suture in the tongue and put a fishing weight hanging out the other side. I mean, it's just, and you see people who come in and it's like, you just don't, you see that huge tongue and that buccal fat pad that's more like a buccal fat mattress. And you're like, I don't even know how I'm going to get back to this second molar back there. So that makes you think, Lance, for the first time that he consulted with the dentist.
Maybe that part. It's between that part and the scene that we skipped over, which was the scene where he has the conflict with the dental assistant, where he tells her that she's not the doctor because she confronts him about the burr that he used on his neighbor Paige's. Was it Paige or what was her name?
I think you're right.
Patty. No, Pat. Whatever. What P name?
Honestly, I'm not sure it's important.
Yeah.
Paula. The burr that she used on that he used on Paula's tooth. That was Mike texted me this earlier. Why are you using a donut burr?
Right.
You destroyed that woman's tooth.
Right.
We need to invent a donut burr.
I think we do.
I think there kind of is like a flattened,
like a disc, a diamond. But
it doesn't look like the donut burr. There was another burr. I don't remember if it was this scene, but it was kind of like round that it came to a point. I think most of these things were like from Home Depot, from the woodworking aisle or something like that. When you look at these, but it wasn't the shape of the burr he was using. It was, the fact that he's just leaning onto it, and the tooth was like softer than any ivory tooth I've ever seen. I don't know what styrofoam or what they used to make the tooth in the model, but. Good call on her part. That I'm just glad they didn't say like reverse preparation or bring up any of those depth cutting burrs, just like in passing. But for her to question that specifically it was the burr he was using that was causing the problems was just so great. She's the one who after the kid runs out and something else happens, she's the one who's standing out in the hallway between the operatories and casually says to the other assistant about the patients, they're dropping like flies, which was, you mentioned that line earlier.
Not what you want. It's really not what you want. It's not what you want to be said in your dental office.
It was so great. And she was very conscientious, as she has another great line. One of my favorite movies of the line where after we're getting into a couple scenes that we haven't talked about, but when April Raines is in there and he starts to hallucinate that the female patient is his wife, which gives him, there's a lot of fingering in this movie that frankly I'm not comfortable with. A lot of it sucking on fingers, but this one,
we're going to get into that. Okay. We are absolutely going to get into that. This one's
the more literal definition of that. So he takes her pantyhose most of the way off, and then when he starts getting caught, he takes it the rest of the way off, where somehow she doesn't know what's happening, and he sticks him under like a drawer in the operatory. And then when his assistant comes back in, somehow they move 2 feet out from under where they had an earthquake or something. And she pockets him as proof, of what he did. And later, when she's yelling at him about his crimes, he's saying that, he's yelling back about he did the right thing. And she pulls him out and she's all, like you had to remove these to fill a cavity. And I knew that was another self-satisfied moment, the double entendre of filling a cavity where you knew the writer was really happy.
He was proud of himself. Yeah.
And then she starts threatening him with the lidocaine syringe. That's her weapon of choice.
Yes. But she threatens him before that. She says, I'm going to report you to the quote dental association.
Exactly. I'm going to call the ADA. I'm going to be put on hold. I'm going to wait for 2 weeks for someone to call me back, one of the 3 employees working there, and then I'm going to lodge a complaint with them. But yeah, so he threatens that. But it's funny, when she has the lidocaine syringe in her hand, all I kept thinking was, oh God, I hadn't seen the movie in literally decades. I thought she was going to hit him in the arm, and it's going to be like that Carol Burnett, Tim Conway thing where we were going to break into slapstick. But thankfully we don't. It doesn't veer into that, at least.
So he then uses the pantyhose of April Raines to choke out his assistant, which again, another very cathartic moment for most dentists here is there's been a point where we've all wanted to choke an assistant from time to time, and this guy got to do it, and he did it all the way. And then he stored her body. Did you guys notice where he stored her body?
Yeah, the nitrous tanks.
The nitrous closet.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have it centralized in nitrous plumbing or do you not? Because he's got nitrous carts all over the office.
Right.
But also this huge nitrous closet that has like 4 of those huge tanks.
Right. And
those huge like central nitrous tanks.
I don't know what's going on, but in this movie, nitrous oxide has the potency of propofol. Like he puts this mask on somebody, and people like most of the time say, "I don't feel it yet," and it'll only go to
for 20 minutes. They're like, that.
I don't feel anything. In his office, it just knocks you the F out. I mean, they're almost
immediately.
And that's another one of my favorite special effects in this movie. Is anytime he turns it up, it goes from no sound to like a jet engine. Like there's this rush of nitrous being forced down into the patient's lungs. But it's amazing just how effective nitrous is in his office. I mean, it's beyond conscious sedation. He can do anything he wants to these people just by turning on that nitrous.
The last scene that's in the most unwatchable scenes for me is the scene where Karen, the hygienist, the Asian hygienist, comes and walks in on the IRS agent being tortured. And then Dr. Feinstein has to dispose of her or he has to dispose of her. She's seen too much now at this point. Did you also notice that the hygienist Karen is the only one that called him Alan the whole time?
Yeah, he got pissed off when anybody didn't call him doctor. And meanwhile, his assistant just refers to him as Alan. That had to be intentional.
Yeah, for sure. And so he kills her by another actually pretty decent effect. Visual effect is he injects air into her carotid artery, and she just basically immediately dies within like 20 seconds. But you could actually see the air bubble going up her neck. Did you guys notice that? Or was that a rewatching?
No. That was obvious. That was obvious. And for a profession that misses blocks 20% of the time, the fact that this guy for the first time could try to find the carotid artery and eject, an air bubble the size of, it looked like a mouse going through a snake is what it looked like. I mean, you would think air, how does air have this much, body to it where this huge, like thing's just going up. And then she just goes into like the most stereotypical fake epileptic fit that you've ever seen.
Yeah. So it's the world's worst air embolism that's ever been witnessed. So that's when he kills his second team member of the day. Which again, I mean, we've all fantasized about
goals,
injecting an air bubble into our hygienist carotid artery.